Hey there guys, Decadent Gamer here, and today I'm going to be reviewing a game from one of PlayStation's most beloved characters and early mascot, Crash Bandicoot. Today's game is going to be Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. Truth be told, my first Crash Bandicoot game was actually the third one, Crash Bandicoot 3, Warp. Eventually, I did get to play the first two games and decided to dedicate some time to my favorite orange marsupial. But wait, why aren't you reviewing the first game? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't enjoy playing through it. The game had poor controls and I really can't get myself to play through it again, at least not right now. I understand and acknowledge that for its time it was great, but still, I don't have the motivation to review it at this time. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but for now, I'm going to skip it. One thing is for sure, it's amazing how in the span of 1 year, vast improvements can be made. Anyway, let's get on with the review. For the most part, the story isn't complex. After the events of the first game, Cortex is seen plummeting down into the Wumpa Islands, where he crash lands into a cave filled with crystals, and he decides to use one of them to power his space station. A year later, we see Cortex with his new assistant Dr. Engine, who informs him that one power crystal alone will not fully power the space station, and that he would need at least 25 more to do so. Since Cortex had no more allies to turn to, he set his sights on his arch-nemesis Crash Bandicoot. He devises a fake story telling Crash through a monitor that if he doesn't find him 25 crystals, the world will experience a catastrophe that will destroy the planet. Now, as lovable as Crash is, he's very dumb. Throughout the game, Cortex makes it pretty obvious to the player that he's still evil. Along the way, Crash's sister Coco will show up at various parts of the game warning Crash not to trust Cortex, but honestly, it comes up as redundant after the first few times since the player already knows Cortex is full of crap. Again, the story isn't all that complicated, but with the update and visuals, it's a lot more engaging. The main goal here for our lovable marsupial is to collect crystals. This time around, the levels are divided into 5 rooms, and instead of traveling on a map like you did in the first game, you enter the room's portals instead. Each room contains 5 levels that house 1 crystal each. In order to reach the next room, you must collect each corresponding crystal and defeat the level's boss to progress further. The crystals are placed in easy to get spots, so you'd have to be pretty blind to miss them. Crash controls a lot more fluidly than he did in the previous game. In the first game, Crash felt rather slippery and heavy all at the same time, which made for some awkward and poor control. Here, they added some much needed balance, and this made Crash a lot more enjoyable to control. Also worth noting, Crash Bandicoot 2 features analog controls, which makes maneuvering Crash a lot more easier even though it's possible to control him with the D-pad just fine. I just personally prefer the analog sticks. Crash also has a few new moves, one of which is the slide mechanic, which is useful in maneuvering tight areas and taking out enemies you can't spin dash or jump on. However, if you hit the jump button at the end of your slide, Crash will perform the slide jump, which allows you to jump further and higher, which is great for taking shortcuts, assuming that you time it just right. Crash can also perform a crouch jump, which is useful to reach high suspended crates. And lastly, when you jump and press the circle button, Crash will perform a belly flop, which is mainly used to open up steel crates, though honestly, you won't be using it that often. Along with the newly added crates, you will also come across the highly unstable nitro crates. Be very careful when you try to avoid them because if you so much as touch them, Crash will be singing with the angels. However, if you find these green exclamation boxes, you can wipe out the remaining nitro crates and it will guarantee you a safer path to the end of the level, but you'll also need to do this if you plan on collecting the box gems. If you want to get 100% in the game, you'll need to collect all the box gems, and there are a total of 42. The gems are the main source of difficulty in the game. If you don't care about getting 100%, the game is a relatively simple and safe ride, but if you're looking for a great challenge to try and complete, the box gems will be right up your alley. Collecting the boxes in this game is a lot easier than the first one because at the end of every level, you'll get to see how many boxes are in the level and how many you missed. Honestly, I never really bothered with the gems in this game, so all I will say is that if you want a good challenge, try to collect all the boxes in each stage. The boss battles in this game are decent and provide a good challenge without being overwhelming. However, I have to say that Cortex's boss battle was pretty weak as it's pretty much a race to the finish. It's not completely horrible, but I just expected something more dynamic. All in all, the gameplay was a big step up from the first game, and even better, now you can save your game on the wall of the stage room, which is a godsend. No more having to rely on finding 3 Tana tokens to save your progress. The graphics for this game look neat for the PS1, with colorful environments and cartoony character design and animations that help bring the world to life. I have to give mad props to Charles Zimbelis and Bob Raffay with their amazing cartoony art styles. I personally look up to both of them as an aspiring artist myself. Crash's model looks a little more polished compared to his first appearance, and all the bosses look equally decent. The music is composed by Josh Mansell, who pretty much worked on all the music for the Crash Bandicoot games on the PS1, except for Crash Bash. The soundtrack in this game is well crafted and fits each level perfectly. Most of the songs have this tropical island and sometimes atmospheric tones that are fast, engaging, and pump you up as you explore the levels. My personal favorite tracks are the themes for Unbearable, Hang 8, and Air Crash. The sound effects, like I mentioned with the graphics, are cartoony in nature and really fit the style the game is going for. We also have Clancy Brown, who voices Cortex, and his tone works really well for him. Clancy Brown voiced other characters like SpongeBob's Mr. Krabs and Lex Luthor for the animated Superman and Justice League shows, and that's only scratching the surface because he's done so many characters. So it's pretty cool that Naughty Dog was able to get him. The only negatives I can think of for the game was the backtracking that is handled pretty poorly. In some levels you'll have to backtrack very far, and since the camera doesn't turn around, it makes it very frustrating to do so. But this is more of a problem if you're trying to get all the boxes. Another thing that bothered me was the jetpack levels. The jetpack was so annoying to control, and I felt it would have been better had they had the jetpack automatically move on a pathway while you maneuver Crash to avoid obstacles. But that's pretty much it. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back was a great follow-up for the first game. It improved nearly everything tenfold, and if you were turned off by the controls of the first Crash Bandicoot game, give Crash Bandicoot 2 a try. Considering that Crash Bandicoot was a pioneer of 3D platforming, it really does its job well. With that said, I give Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back a delicious 4 out of 5 Wumpa Fruits. The only thing keeping me from giving this game a score of 5 out of 5 is due to the poor backtracking, but other than that, the game is pretty solid and definitely worth a play. Oh hey there, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, hit the subscribe button above for more upcoming content coming soon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.